Good morning, good morning. Let me find my video. Here we are. Okay, also make sure I am not muted. Okay, I've got sound. All right. Okay, good morning, everyone. Here we go. Let me know if you can hear me. Hi. Hey, Naisha. Thanks for joining us. Cool. Okay. Move this up for me. Okay, we've got 4 people so far. How's everyone doing on this very gloomy Tuesday? Awesome. Thanks for letting me know, Naisha. That was very helpful. Okay. Cool. Cool. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I am trying my best to do a lot better on my time today. So I want to share some new information, maybe new to you, maybe not new to you, but a couple of new ways that you can prepare sweet potatoes that can boost the nutrition that you get from them and also be really pleasant to your taste buds. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. As usual, I am Kristen Elliott. I am one of the registered dietitians at the Atlanta Community Food Bank, and this is episode 9 of Quarantine Kitchen. You may notice that I'm going to glance off to the side every so often. I'm using a different camera setup, and I also just have a very big screen of myself to the left because the Facebook video actually lags a little bit. So if you see that, it's me looking at myself in real time because the video in front of me is not real time. Okay, cool. Okay, so awesome. So here I am talking about the humble sweet potato, which is not to be confused with the yam. They're very similar. The yams are actually a little more similar to yucca or yucca, depending on how you decide to pronounce it and where you're from, which that one is really starchy and it's not very sweet. Sweet potatoes are going to be a little bit more on the sweeter side and less starchy. Also, sweet potatoes have like a smoother skin, and yucca or yucca has more of a bark-like texture on the outside, and it's really, it's really not smooth. So that's how you can tell the difference. The grocery stores will often call sweet potatoes yams, and they're most likely just sweet potatoes. So just keep that in mind. It's fine to use them interchangeably when they have a smooth skin. If it doesn't have a smooth skin, it's not a sweet potato. Cool. So sweet potatoes come in a lot of different forms and different colors. And today we're just using our generic orange sweet potato. You can find all of the resources for this video in my resource folder that is captioned in the caption of the video. And you can see a picture of different colors of sweet potatoes. Sometimes the inside is white, sometimes it's purple, or it's mostly white, purple, and orange. Okay. So first thing I'm going to get started for you today is one of the Food Bank favorite recipes. It's called apple glazed sweet potatoes. So instead of boiling your sweet potatoes in water, you can slice them really thin like this. Got a really nice thin slice here. And you can cook these in apple juice with some cinnamon, and they will form a cinnamon apple glaze over the top of your sweet potatoes. It only takes about 20 minutes for your sweet potatoes to cook through. It's a really good idea to cut them really thin. I don't know if you can see that. You can see how thin that is. The thinner they are and the more similar in shape and thickness they are, they're going to cook at the same rate. So you won't have any bigger pieces that you're waiting on while you have some really thin pieces that are done and already and turned to mush. So try to get your sweet potatoes as thin as you can. So this is one sweet potato. I'm just going to use 2 for today. And all I'm doing is I'm cutting it very thin. So you can also, if you prefer, to cut it in half long ways and have this half moon shape, and I'll show you. So what I'm doing is I'm using a bridge to hold my sweet potato, so there's an open space in the middle for me to slide my knife through. So you're gonna just go straight through. A little rocking needed for the sweet potato because it's firm. Okay, there's my 2 halves. So you can also cut your halves in half like this. It just depends on what you want your final sweet potato to look like. So just make sure that the thickness is similar, and they will all cook within the same time. Okay, so I am using 100% apple juice to cook my sweet potatoes. I already started to heat up my pan. I'm just going to go ahead and add these. Actually, that's good. That's a good amount for the current size of my pan. I'm using about a cup of apple juice. Our full recipe uses 2.5 cups of apple juice. Ooh. There we go. I'm making a little bit smaller recipe today to share with y'all. Okay. You just want enough to, you can see that really well. They're not completely submerged in apple juice. They don't need to be because we're going to put a lid on the top of this and they're going to steam while they boil and they'll all cook. So I'm going to add some cinnamon and a little pinch of salt. So the apple juice is the sweet, which is going to make your cinnamon taste really delicious. And then the salt is going to help balance the flavors. So I'll mix in. It's just a very small amount of salt, so it's not even enough for you to worry about. It's just a little pinch. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this come to a boil, and then I'm going to put a lid on it and let it steam through. Let me just let this made a nice big splash. Put the apple juice in there. Okay. So that's going to take the longest portion of our time today. So I wanted to start that first. So now that that's started, I wanted to show you another way that you can cook whole sweet potatoes. And it doesn't have to take an hour in a really hot oven on a really hot day. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cook my whole sweet potatoes in the microwave. And this is how I eat them the majority of the time. It's going to turn out like a baked potato, and you can eat it however you like. If you want to do cinnamon, sugar, butter, just you can do that, but you don't have to lather it on. So we just do a little pat of butter and a little cinnamon sugar mixture, and that'll give you that like nice traditional sweet baked sweet potato flavor. So the way I like to do it is I will cook it and then I will stuff it with things that you would not originally consider. So I'm going to show you after it's done. So for that, what you need to do is you need to make sure that you poke holes in your sweet potatoes so it doesn't explode in the microwave. I went ahead and trimmed the little ends off of the sweet potato just because they were really pointy and a little rough around the edges. So I just trimmed that off. And this one actually looks fine, so I'm going to leave it alone. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stab around on the sweet potato in like alternate spots. So if I do on this end, I'm going to do on this end as I turn it. So all that does is it lets out steam as it cooks and it will not explode in your microwave. You can do this with a regular potato as well. Okay, so you only need like 5 or 6 spots of poked holes, and then we're going to put it in the microwave for about 5 minutes. So these are a little bit smaller on the scale of huge sweet potatoes that you might find at the grocery store. So I'm going to just start with 5 minutes, and then I'm gonna check it. So when your fork or a small knife comes out, goes in really easily and comes out very easily, you know that your sweet potato is done. So I'm gonna pop it in the microwave. One thing is you don't want your sweet potatoes to be sitting right on top of each other. Let's social distance our sweet potatoes in the microwave. That way they have enough space to cook on all the sides and they're cooked evenly. Okay, so we're starting to get some bubbles on these sweet potatoes over here. That looks really good. Okay. Let me go ahead and grab my lid so I can be prepared to put it on my pan. Lid ready. All right. So I wanted to show you a couple of ways that you can cut your sweet potato and incorporate it into different dishes. So I already showed you how to thinly slice it. That's pretty straightforward. But I wanted to show you how to cut it into fries and also how to cut it into cubes. You will notice that I did not take the skin off of my sweet potato. As long as it's clean, and it's any dirt is removed from the outside of it, you can keep the skin. It's going to add some extra fiber, and sweet potatoes are a root vegetable. So that means that they grow in the dirt. They're not a growth on the outside of the plant that you see above ground. They grow in the ground, and you have to dig them out. So there's going to be some trace minerals that you get from the dirt that has been sitting around your sweet potato. So I like to keep the skin on, just as long as it's got a good scrub. Any opportunity I have to talk about fiber or get more fiber in the foods that I'm eating, I'm going to keep that. So it's not super tough once it's cooked. So especially when you have it cut in such a thin slice like this, and even with sweet potato fries, it's going to be nice and cooked through. Okay, so we've got this cooking. Let me show you how to cut your sweet potato into cubes, or let me take one step back. I'm going to show you fries first because you technically cut it into fries and then you cut it into cubes. So the easiest way to do that, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to just chop off my little ends here and get those out of the way. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my sweet potato in this direction and I'm going to cut it into slices going this way. So I like to call this planks. It's not a technical term. It's just, I think it's a straightforward way to say flat pieces. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut it into planks. So this one is not super even on the side. So I'm going to end up cutting like this bulbous section off first, which will give me a flat edge and it'll make my sweet potato not roll around on the cutting board. So flat edge, I'm just going to cut it off here. So this is a plank, also makes my sweet potato have a flat edge, and then we can go from here. So I'm just going to cut along the side here. You want them to be even thickness. That is a good rule of thumb for cooking anything and cutting anything. When they are an even thickness, they're going to cook at a similar rate. So I'm going to do this at about an inch or so. There we go. There's another plank. Get one more. Okay, so sometimes they're going to be awkward shapes like this once you get to the ends. That's totally fine. So once I get to this point, what I'll do is I'll flip this around and I'll cut on the other side. So it's a little easier to hang on to because you're not holding on to this weird shaped side and trying to cut the flat side. So I'm going to cut on the other side to get that last length. Cool. So that one's pretty thin, but that's fine. That's how it's going to turn out. So here are my planks. They're a little, they're close enough in size. Yeah. Okay. So let me give this sweet potatoes over here a nice little stir. I hear my sweet potatoes in the microwave doing a little sizzle. They're just steaming, so that's exactly what we're looking for. All right, lid on. Perfect. Okay, so now that we have our planks here, you can, as you get comfortable with cutting them like this, you can cut them individually or you can stack them on top of each other and cut them all at the same time. That is going to make it easier for you once you get the hang of it, and it saves you time. So what I'm going to do is first, I'm just going to show you one plank, and then I'm going to stack the rest of them on top of each other. So to make French fries, 1 second, please. Let me grab my sweet potatoes from the microwave and see if they're done. Pork check. I'm gonna give it 1 more minute, and then I think it will be perfect. So back to my plank. First, we're gonna cut this guy into French fry shapes. So all you're gonna do is cut it into a few slices vertically. Okay. So there's your sweet potato fries. They might be bigger than you want them to be, so then you can just cut them in half this way. And then that is your fry. So to get your cubes, you're gonna take your fries and you're gonna line them up and just cut it in the opposite direction at similar distance. So you want your cubes to be as close in size as possible. So then you'll just cut things like this all the way across. So there's our sweet potato cubes. So you're probably like, what do you put sweet potato cubes in? You can put it in anything. Add it to your favorite soup. Add it to chili. Chili is my favorite. You can add it to a taco filling. That's a really great way to make your tacos more filling, especially because sweet potatoes are so cheap. Okay. Microwave is yelling at me. 1 second. Sweet potatoes are done. Okay, so cubes, I personally like to use them in chili. You can roast them like this in a hot oven, and they'll get really nice and crispy, and you can eat them cold on top of a salad. That's a really delicious way to eat it. Let's see. Anyone have any ways that they like to use cubed sweet potatoes that they would like to share? Personally, chili and taco filling are my 2 favorites. Joy, our other dietitian on staff, she likes to make black bean and butternut squash enchiladas. And sweet potatoes are going to be a good substitute for a butternut squash because they're going to be similar texture and similar cook time and flavor. So any place that uses butternut squash, you can substitute with sweet potato. You can also, this is the best, cut it into cubes and boil it like you're going to make mashed potatoes. So when you go to mash it, it's already small and easier to mash, and you'll have mashed sweet potatoes, which is delicious. I personally like it on the savory side, so you've got the sweet from the sweet potato, but then you can add savory flavors to it, and you get a little bit of the best of both worlds. So that is how we cut our cubes. It's very straightforward. So I'm going to show you, I'm just going to stack these on top of each other and show you how quickly you can get your fries. I use this rocking motion instead of trying to like push it down really hard. I use the rocking motion, and that makes it easier to cut. So we've got all of these fries, which are really good with savory seasonings if I not already repeated that. Like a good chili powder and cumin or some curry savory and human, that would be delicious. Let's see. What a response. I like to make sweet potato cubes with a chili lime seasoning. They make a yummy side. That sounds delicious. See, Veronica's on the same like savory page that I'm with the sweet potatoes. So I hope if you haven't tried your sweet potatoes in the savory way that you will after seeing this, because it's really easy to do. Okay, let me slide this over and talk to you about what you can serve with your microwave baked sweet potatoes. So these are, they're really soft to the touch, and you can squeeze them. And they're a little squishy, so you know it's perfect. So I've got two different ways I want to show you how to stuff this. One is savory and more like a dinner, and the other one is a little sweet and more like a breakfast option. So I'm going to show you, what should I show you first? I'll start with sweet. Okay. So this is my sweet option. So let me take my sweet potato and cut it in half. I'm not going to cut it all the way in half. I'm going to do like a little slit in the middle. That way, here we go. That way I can squeeze it and it opens up in the middle, but it's still attached to the sides. Yes, that's beautiful. Okay. So at this point, if you wanted to use a fork and go ahead and get the insides separated from your skin, that's a good opportunity to do that. I don't know about y'all, but I eat the skin of the baked potato, any of them, especially when they're cooked really well and the skin is just a little bit crispy on the outside. It's delicious. Okay, so there is that. I'm gonna add a little bit of peanut butter. This is a natural peanut butter, so it's a little bit loose in consistency. And I'm just gonna put a little bit of peanut butter on top. And then I'm going to add a little bit of banana slices. So the sweet here is coming from the banana, and I'll use my little knife. It's a little more safe. The sweet is coming from the banana. Depending on what kind of peanut butter you use, you can get some sweet from that, and it's going to pair really well with the sweetness of the sweet potato. So this, it makes a really easy and nutritious breakfast. Let me move this guy back in here. Okay, so sweet potato. So like beautiful, no, so easy to make. 5 minutes in the microwave for your sweet potato. Add your favorite nut butter. It doesn't have to be peanut butter, cashew butter, almond butter, whatever you like. And then just top it with some bananas. If you have some nuts or some chia seeds or something like that, you can sprinkle that on top for some healthy fats added to it. But your peanut butter is going to be a good source of protein and fat to help keep you full. You've got all of the fiber from the sweet potato as well as from the banana. So this is just a really good fast breakfast option. Or I don't know, dessert if you want to have some dessert, but you're trying to not have ice cream or something like that. But this is a really good breakfast option. Okay. Our second option is going to be savory and more like a dinner option. So first, let me check on my sweet potatoes over here. They're starting to look a different color. Yeah, so you can use your spatula to see how done they are. They're not ready yet. So I'm going to leave the lid off right now. Actually, how are we doing? Yeah, I'm going to put the lid back on for just a couple more minutes. I'm going to vent it. There we go. So it's still going to like build up some steam, but it's also going to help cook the apple juice down some. So we want it to reduce to a glaze and not be like apple juice. So for this sweet potato, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to cut it, slit it down the middle, but not all the way to the edges. And then I'm going to squeeze it on the sides and pop it open. There we go. Fork. Going to just start getting some of the sweet potato off the sides into the middle. There we go. So what I did before we got started is I prepared a chicken taco filling that I'm going to put on top of our sweet potato. So you can find the recipe for our chicken taco filling in our resource folder. This is a recipe that we make often here at the Food Bank. Let me move my pan over here so you can actually see it. So let's see, can you see it? You can see it a little bit. So this is our chicken taco filling. Yes, that's a great. So for this rendition, I used a rotisserie chicken that was already cooked from the grocery store. So that's a great way to save you some time and also save you some money and time and money. To get a chicken that's already fully cooked. If you were to buy a whole raw chicken, you're going to have to take the time to cut it apart. And you're also going to have to cook it all separately. But when it's like this, you can take it off the bones, use the parts that you need immediately. You can take the rest of it, the carcass and the skin and the bones, and save it in the freezer for later, or you can hang on to it and make a stock immediately. So you can do a lot with a whole chicken that's already cooked. So I just took the breasts off and added them to the pan with a little bit of oil. I've got 1 can of black beans and 1 can of corn. I drained those off really well to get the salty liquid off of them. I had chili powder and some cumin and a jar of salsa. So the jar of salsa is where you're going to get a lot of your seasoning from. And this is a really delicious dish. I personally prefer a medium salsa because it's going to give a little bit of spice. Because that's what I like. But you don't have to do that. Some salsas can end up being a little bit sweet. So just taste it as you cook it and see if you need to add some more savory flavors to it. So I'm just going to add a nice little scoop of my chicken taco filling right on top of my sweet potato. There we go. That looks beautiful. And now I'm just going to take an avocado and put a little bit of avocado on top. If you're not familiar with how to cut an avocado, it's very simple. So you're going to take your knife and start at the top. And you're going to cut down until you fill the pit. And your knife will stop and it won't go any farther. Then you just move the avocado around the knife. So I'm not really moving the knife, I'm just moving the avocado. And it's being guided by the pit inside. So I went all the way around. You're going to do a little twist and you pull it apart. And I think that's the most perfect avocado I have ever seen. Good job, avocado. Okay. And I'm just going to cut out the avocado. I'm going to make some slices. Don't cut through the skin. Be really careful here. Slice. I'm going to give it a squeeze in this direction. You can see that the slices are separating. I'm going to grab a spoon and I'm going to go around the side and scoop out the slices that I just made. There we go. That came out beautifully. Right on the top. So that's fantastic. This is going to be my lunch once I finish you guys. So that is the chicken taco stuffed sweet potato. I'm very excited about this one. I want you to think outside the box when you're using sweet potatoes and not think just cinnamon and sugar, because they're very versatile, and the sweetness that they have is going to add to the rest of the flavors of anything else that you're eating with it. So I'm married into a Thai family, and in Thai culture, having all of the different taste profiles represented in every dish is very important to the cuisine. So the sweet potato in this instance would be the sweet flavor, and then you've got the savory from the chicken, And you've also got a little bit of sweet from the corn and then the savory spices. And it's got a little spicy in there from the salsa. It was a medium spicy, and I did add just a little bit of red pepper because I just wanted it a little bit more spicy. But balance, that's all I'm trying to say. It's a really good way to eat your sweet potato. Okay, let's see. I've got a couple comments in the chat box. Let's see. Devin said, I like to bake them too and eat them with mustard. I'm a huge mustard fan. I've never thought of that before. I'm going to have to try that. Thank you for sharing, Devin. Okay, let's check on our sweet potatoes. Let me put this lid back on our taco mix. So let's check on our apple-based sweet potatoes. Yes, so it is starting to cook down here. The apple juice is reduced. Here we go. Let me check the sweet potato. Yeah. So they're getting close to being done. I know it hasn't been a full 20 minutes. I also don't want to hold you off for too long. I'm trying really hard to keep on time and not to take a whole hour. Here we go. So at this step, I'm just going to turn it up just a little bit because I want my apple juice to reduce and turn into like a syrup. Okay, but also I'm going to pay really close attention to it because I don't want this to burn. That would be very sad. Okay. All right, Devin, I see you. I'm going to try it. I'm going to try it with mustard. I like at barbecue restaurants, I like to get a baked potato and I'll put the pulled pork on top of the baked potato and make the stuffed potato that way. So I can imagine them being real good because I like the mustard-based barbecue sauce. So thanks for that tip. I'm going to try it and I'll let you know how it goes. Cool. These two turned out really beautifully. I hope you all end up trying one of these options here. Oops, wrong spatula. So sweet potatoes have a decently long shelf life as long as you store them out of light and away from onions and garlic. Onions and garlic release ethylene gas, which ripens your produce a lot quicker. So when you store them together, it's going to make your sweet potatoes sprout, which is really fun if you've ever seen one sprout. It looks like there's a plant growing in your drawer. If you wanted to have a little fun and cut off the top portion of the sweet potato when the sprouts are coming out, and you could actually plant that in the ground and get your own sweet potatoes. So that's fun. Anybody wanted to try that? Like we all have a ton of time on our hands. So that's really cool. Sweet potatoes will get sweeter in flavor the longer that they sit. And it's because the starch that is present in the sweet potato is turning to sugar the longer that it sits. But so it's not, your body isn't going to use it in a different way because starch is sugar anyway. It just converts to a sweeter flavored variety of sugar and starch. I hope that wasn't confusing. The same thing, actually, bananas are a really good example of this. You can get a really green banana and it's not going to be that sweet, but the longer that it sits, it gets sweeter. So that is kind of how potatoes work, the sweet potatoes. Okay, my sauce is reduced beautifully. I'm going to turn this off so it doesn't burn. So you can see I've got this glaze on the top of my sweet potatoes. It is absolutely delicious. It's like apple cinnamon sweet potatoes. If you want to throw in some apple slices into these sweet potatoes, that would be really delicious. Around the holidays, I like to talk about this recipe a lot because it's a good substitute for a really heavy marshmallowy baked corn syrupy sweet potato dish, like a casserole, whatever you want to call it in your home. This is a good substitute for that because you're already eating really healthy, healthy, let me take one step back, heavy other things around the holidays. So you could make this in place of a really heavier, much sweeter version. So it's just an idea, no pressure. This makes a really good side dish and kids really like it too. It's kind of like the cinnamon apples at, what is that restaurant called? I'm drawing a blank anyway. It's a very southern country restaurant that makes the cinnamon apples that are delicious. So sweet potato and cinnamon apples. Okay. So does anyone have any questions? I want to make sure I'm being a good steward of your time and not holding you for too long. Let's see, any questions? Grab my mouse. Okay. Ariana's got a huge sack of sweet potatoes to use up, so awesome. I hope you got some good ideas from this, Ariana, and let me know what you end up doing with them. Okay. A lot of people like to oven roast them. That's good. That's a good way to do it, but that takes time. So if you're in a rush, just pop it in the microwave. Cool. Awesome. Rotunda, they all look delicious. I hope you try it. Please let me know if you try it and give me some feedback. You can find any recipes that I talked about today, including our sweet potato produce card that's going to tell you all about how to wash it, how to store it, how to cut it with step-by-step photos. And then you're going to find a sweet potato french fry on the back with a savory seasoning. And then you're also going to find this apple glazed sweet potato recipe on the back as well with a really pretty photo. So please take a look at that. And thank you for joining me today. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I hope you stay dry because it's gross outside. And let's see what Ariana says. Air frying versus baking sweet potatoes, which is better? I cannot speak on air frying, but I think that the consistency would turn out pretty much the same. So if you've got an air fryer, definitely try it. I think the outside will get more crispy. I'm not sure if you can use aluminum foil in an air fryer or if you would want to wrap your potato like that in an air fryer. That's something to consider. Some people will wrap the whole potato in foil to let it steam as it cooks in the oven. So I don't know, Ariana. I would love for you to let me know if you try it. I do think that you could take your cubes and put those in the air fryer, and that would be like roasting them and getting them really nice and crispy on the outside. I think that would be really good. So let me know if you do the whole sweet potato in the air fryer. Okay. Thank you, Janae. I'm glad you were able to join. Okay, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna stop talking and taking up your time. Thank you so much for joining today. The video will go live in just a little bit. You'll find all the resources in the bit.ly link and the caption. And please feel free to shoot me a message if you have any questions. Okay, thank you all. We'll be back. Let's see, calendar. We'll be back on October the 6th because we're doing the first and second Tuesdays of every month. So we're going to skip the extra Tuesday at the end of this month, and we'll be back on October the 6th. So thank you all. Goodbye.